Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber is one of the most recognized weapons in Star Wars, and most people know the story behind it. A blue blade did not show up against the desert sky, so the effects team changed it. That part is real, but there is a much bigger reason behind the color, and it goes back further than anyone expected. George Lucas did not stumble into a new color, he planned it from the start. During the story conference for Return of the Jedi, months before a single frame was shot, the filmmaker laid out exactly what a different colored lightsaber was supposed to represent. It was the central symbol of the entire saga's emotional arc. A son breaking free of his father's shadow and becoming something new. And when Vader held that green blade on Endor, he did not just see a lightsaber, he recognized a message he cannot ignore. But that moment on the walkway was just the start. The first domino that would eventually lead to Vader's redemption. Canon and Legend sources, comics, novels, behind-the-scenes materials reveal why the shift from blue to green carried a message Vader couldn't ignore. Chapter 1: The Shock. On the forest moon of Endor, Luke surrenders himself to the Empire. He's brought before the Dark Lord on a walkway between the towering trees, and he is carrying a lightsaber. Based on Lucas's revised Return of the Jedi script, what happens next is described in precise detail. Vader looks down from Luke to the lightsaber in his own black-gloved hand. He seems to ponder. Then, as the script notes, the Sith Lord acknowledges that his son has constructed a new blade. And he does not stop there. Vader ignites the green saber, holds it up, and examines its humming, brilliant light. The script records his verdict, that Luke's skills are now complete, and that he is indeed powerful. They stand for a moment with the blade between them. This is the only scene in the entire trilogy where the Dark Lord directly acknowledges Luke's growth as a Jedi, and the green saber is what forces the acknowledgement. Constructing a lightsaber in the filmmaker's framework is the final milestone. It cannot be faked, purchased, or inherited. Vader reads it instantly. His son is no longer a farm boy to be captured or a student to be corrupted. And that is when the ground shifts beneath him. As Lucas noted in the commentary document in the Rinzler book, the Emperor's entire scheme was to get Luke to strike the Sith Lord down and take his place. A completed Jedi meant a viable replacement. Every moment Vader had spent serving the Emperor now carried a weight. He was not irreplaceable, he was expendable. The green saber did not just confirm Luke's power, it confirmed that the Emperor had a way out of Vader entirely. Chapter 2: Why That Matters. The realization on the walkway did not exist in a vacuum. It landed on top of decades of calculated manipulation, because the Emperor had been playing the game long before Luke Skywalker ever ignited a lightsaber. As Lucas described in the commentary captured in the Rinzler book, when Luke struck off Vader's hand in the throne room, the Sith Lord understood the trap. The Emperor was never going to let both of them survive. They were always meant to face each other, with the Emperor claiming whoever remained. That was the long game. Not loyalty, not partnership, but audition. The apprentice who proved stronger would continue. The one who fell would be discarded. This is the logic of Sith succession. There are always two, a master and an apprentice. The master holds power until the apprentice grows strong enough to take it. That cycle does not reward loyalty, it rewards patience and ruthlessness. The Emperor did not need Vader to serve him forever. He needed Vader to serve him until something better came along. And the green lightsaber told him that something better had arrived. Luke was young, powerful, and, unlike his father, unbroken by years inside a life support suit. A completed Jedi with Skywalker blood was exactly what the Emperor had been waiting for. Vader had always been expendable. He simply had not been forced to confront it until his own son walked onto that walkway carrying proof. Chapter 3: What Green Proves. But to understand the full weight of what Vader recognized, you have to understand what the green blade replaced, because Lucas designed the two lightsabers as opposites. The lightsaber Luke used in the first two films was never truly his. It belonged to Anakin Skywalker. Obi-Wan recovered it after their duel on Mustafar and kept it hidden for close to 20 years. When he handed it to Luke inside that small hut on Tatooine, it became more than a tool, it became an inheritance. a physical bond between a son and the man he believed was gone. According to the Making of Star Wars: Return of the Jedi by J.W. Rinsler, the director was very clear about the symbolism during the film story conference. He described how Ben had taken the lightsaber from the fallen Jedi's hand after their fight and saved it for the son. And the way that Lucas put it, Luke was carrying his father's sword, walking a path someone else had set for him. The blue blade was not just a lightsaber, it was a chain. Then, the Dark Lord shattered that connection. At Cloud City, Vader struck off Luke's hand, and the blue lightsaber tumbled into the shaft below. The filmmaker did not treat that as a small plot point. As the Rinsler's book reveals, he described it as a symbolic act, the deliberate breaking of the bond between them. The Sith Lord did not just disarm his son, he split the link on purpose. That loss is what makes the green lightsaber so meaningful. Without understanding the blue one as a bond, the green one is nothing more than a color swap. But with that context, the new blade becomes something far bigger, a declaration. There's a popular theory that the declaration was an accident. The standard explanation is that a blue blade did not show up against the desert sky during filming, so the effects team swapped it to green. That part is real, but the timeline shows it was not where the idea started. During the July 1981 planning session, the creative team was sorting through script details. Luke had lost his lightsaber when Vader took his hand, so he needed a new weapon. As documented in the Rinsler's behind-the-scenes account, screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan suggested that Luke should carry a blade of a new color. Lucas agreed right away. It could look completely different. That conversation took place in a conference room months before anyone ever stood in the Arizona desert and noticed a visibility problem. The story reason came first, a new lightsaber for Luke. The practical issue came along later and backed up that choice. In a 2017 interview with Vanity Fair, Pablo Hidalgo of the Lucasfilm Story Group confirmed that the original plan was blue. At that point, lightsabers were either red or blue, nothing else. But blue vanished against the bright sky and pale sand near Yuma, Arizona, where the sail barge scene was filmed outdoors. Green fixed both issues at once. It looked distinct on screen, and it carried the meaning the filmmaker had already built into the story. As further confirmed in Daniel Wallace's Star Wars: The Lightsaber Collection, the color change was driven by both storytelling and practical needs working together. And this distinction matters for everything that follows. If the green was only a technical fix, then searching for a deeper meaning would be pointless. But the planning session transcript tells a different story. The creative team chose a new color for narrative reasons before the filming problem even existed. The intent was there from the start. This is the real thesis of the video, and it comes straight from Lucas himself. During that same meeting, the director laid out the full arc of lightsaber ownership across all three films. First, Luke receives his father's blade. He carries it because he's carrying a legacy. Then the Dark Lord breaks that connection at Cloud City, and in the third film, as the making of Return of the Jedi records, Lucas made clear that Luke had built his own. He is his own man. He is not a son anymore. He's an equal. Those are the filmmaker's exact words. And he tied this to a broader visual philosophy that shaped the entire trilogy. As the same source details, color plays a major role in the design of these films. The villains exist in a stark, colorless world. The heroes live in an organic world of browns and greens. The Sith path deals in hard lines. The Jedi path is natural and layered. The green lightsaber placed Luke firmly inside the visual identity of the light, the opposite of everything the dark side represented. The idea mattered enough that earlier drafts of the script included an entire scene where Luke builds the lightsaber. On a planet called Sissaman, he assembles the blade, and Yoda confirms the milestone, declaring that Luke has mastered the lightsaber's secret and is ready for his final test. That scene was eventually trimmed for pacing, but as Rinsler's account shows, temporary footage was assembled as late as November 1982 to demonstrate what it might have looked like. The construction was always supposed to mark a turning point. The design purpose behind both weapons is unmistakable. The blue blade represented inheritance, while the green blade represented freedom, and Lucas built that contrast into the story intentionally. But the blade was only half the story. What mattered was how Luke created it, and what that process revealed. In both continuities, constructing the lightsaber was not a simple mechanical task, it was a test in the Force. and that difference matters for understanding what the Dark Lord recognized when he held the finished product. In Legends, the story comes from Steve Perry's 1996 novel, Shadows of the Empire, set between The Empire Strikes Back and the final chapter of the original trilogy. The book depicts Luke returning to Obi-Wan's abandoned hut on Tatooine and finding lightsaber construction instructions. He gathers parts from vendors in Mos Eisley, a reflector cup, power cells, and a focusing lens, but the crystal cannot be bought. Luke creates it through the Force, producing a green gem. After weeks of failed assembly, he remembers Yoda's guidance, sets the instructions aside, and finishes the weapon through instinct alone. The hilt follows Obi-Wan's design, the blade carries Yoda's color, both mentors honored in a single instrument. In canon, the crystal's origin was not revealed until 2023, 40 years after the film reached theaters. Marvel's Star Wars Issue 35 by Charles Soule shows Luke traveling to the planet Christophsis to find a replacement crystal after his temporary lightsaber is damaged. A kyber crystal specialist named Dr. Quada hands him a clear raw crystal and asks him to connect with it through the Force. Luke falls into a deep vision, Dagobah and Yoda telling him that every Jedi must walk their own path. When Luke opens his eyes, the crystal has turned green. No one can explain why. Yet the key point is the same in both versions. The lightsaber cannot be completed through skill alone. It demands the Force, which means building one is confirmation of genuine Jedi ability, not just technical knowledge. This is why the Dark Lord's reaction on Endor carries so much weight. He was not admiring craftsmanship, he was reading evidence of a completed Force connection. But canon reveals something even the Dark Lord cannot have anticipated. The crystal already carried an answer before the question was ever asked. In Star Wars issues 42 and 43, also by Soule, Luke enters a Force vision inside a red kyber crystal that had been corrupted by an ancient Sith called Gul. The vision tests him. Gul traps Luke and insists that life is defined by hardship, that anguish should be turned into a source of strength. Luke resists, breaking free to show compassion for Gul's own troubled past before overcoming him. Then the vision shifts to something deeply personal. Luke confronts the masked figure who has haunted him since Cloud City, reliving their duel, witnessing the loss of Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, and Ben Kenobi. He sees his own birth. The Dark Lord tells him there is no escape, but Luke reads it differently. It is not a warning, it is destiny. He will face his father again, and in that moment, Luke sees the good man behind the mask. He realizes that no one is beyond help. Luke approaches a glowing silhouette of Anakin Skywalker. The fortress around him shifts from red to dazzling brightness. The crystal is purified. Luke gives the cleansed crystal away and keeps the green one for himself. As Soule described on social media after publication, sculpting Luke's journey from Empire to Jedi was always a major part of the job on this comic series, and this arc was central to it. Inside a kyber crystal vision, before ever setting foot on Endor, Luke arrived at the conclusion that defines the throne room. His father can be saved. When the Dark Lord held that green blade on the walkway, he was holding proof of his own redemption and had no way of knowing it. Luke did not inherit this power, he chose his own path, and the green blade was the proof. Chapter 4: The Emperor's Plan. What unfolded next in the throne room was not one fight, it was three. Lucas designed the throne room duel as three separate emotional conflicts, not one continuous clash. The green saber serves a different role in each, and its arc across the three phases mirrors Luke's entire journey. As director Richard Marquand recalled, the filmmaker told him the duel was not about spectacle, it was just two people swinging sticks at each other. What mattered was what was happening in their heads. Luke goes through three emotional shifts: straightforward anger, then withdrawal, and a refusal to fight, and then an overwhelming burst of fury when the Dark Lord mentions Leia. Mark Hamill understood the stakes the same way. He noted there was no question Luke was now an equal swordsman, but that Luke would never make his opponent suffer just to show dominance. As Hamill put it, the cast and crew were much more interested in the drama than in a long, flashy fight. In the first phase, Luke surrenders the saber on his own terms. According to the revised script, the lightsaber rolls across the floor to the Sith Lord, who hooks it onto his belt. Luke hands over the very instrument that symbolized his growth as an act of trust and restraint. The Emperor's design was already in motion. The trap had been built long before Luke arrived. A completed Jedi carrying a green lightsaber was exactly what the Emperor wanted to see, because it meant that the replacement was ready. Luke was bait. He was the instrument meant to destroy Vader, and the throne room was the arena built to make it happen. And Vader, who had already read the green blade on the walkway, who had already understood that his master had a way out of him, was now being tested, not by Luke, but by the Emperor. The question was not whether Vader could defeat his son, the question was whether Vader would be defeated by him. Chapter 5: The Moment Vader Breaks. In the second phase of the duel, Vader finds the pressure point. He senses Luke's bond with Leia and threatens to turn her to the dark side instead. In that moment, the green saber flies off the Dark Lord's belt and back into Luke's hand. His anger forces Vader to retreat. Luke drives him backward and strikes off his right hand. The script notes that Luke realizes how close he is to becoming exactly like the man in front of him. He looks at the Sith Lord's mechanical hand, then at his own. He is won. The Dark Lord is beaten, disarmed, and collapsed against the railing. The Emperor is watching, waiting for the killing blow. Every piece of the trap is in place, and Luke refuses all of it. He powers down the blade, then throws the saber at the Emperor's feet. The director described the choice in the clearest possible terms. Luke is standing over a helpless man, his own father, and he will not become the thing that destroyed his family. In the filmmaker's own words, Luke has controlled his anger. He does not carry resentment towards his father. He has the power to end the Sith Lord's life, and he rejects it. Not out of weakness, but out of a moral certainty that neither the Emperor nor Vader can match. The saber that was built in freedom was surrendered in mercy. That is the arc Luke has designed into a single blade. Chapter 6: The Real Shock. When Luke threw the green saber away, everything the Dark Lord believed collapsed in a single moment. The chain started on the walkway. Vader examined the green blade and recognized a complete Jedi, which meant that the Emperor finally had a replacement. That realization followed him into the throne room. When Luke struck off Vader's hand, the Sith Lord understood the trap. The Emperor was never going to let both of them survive. They were always meant to face each other, with the Emperor claiming whoever remained. The green saber had confirmed that Luke was strong enough to be that replacement, and now, standing over his beaten father, Luke had proven it. But then Luke refused to kill him, and that is where the shock became something deeper than strategy. Luke's refusal reminded Vader of who he once was. Decades earlier, the Dark Lord had faced the same crossroads, the chance to reject the dark side, to choose something other than power. He failed. His son, holding the same weapon, carrying the same strength, made the opposite choice. Luke was not just powerful, he was powerful and still chose mercy. That combination is what the Emperor could never anticipate, and what Vader had forgotten was possible. That is what the green blade truly communicated. Not symbolism, but cause and effect. Luke built the lightsaber to declare his freedom. The completed weapon told Vader he was replaceable. Luke used that weapon to defeat him, and then Luke threw it away, rather than become what the Emperor wanted. Every step followed from the one before it. The saber was the proof, the duel was the test, and the mercy was the answer. That rejection is what separates Luke from every Jedi who came before him, and every Sith who tried to claim him. Chapter 7: The Consequence. The Sith Lord was not strong enough to overpower the Emperor through combat. As Lucas described it, the final act came in a completely unexpected way, not through calculation or dread, but through what the filmmaker called the extraordinary energy of wanting to protect his son. Compassion. That was the force that ended the Sith. Not a green blade, not a red one, a father's hand reaching out because his son had shown him what it looked like to choose the light. The green lightsaber was designed to carry a single message across 3 films. Luke Skywalker was no longer his father's shadow, and when Vader finally understood that message, not on the walkway where he examined the blade, but in the throne room where he watched his son throw it away, he remembered who he was before the mask. What came next required no lightsaber at all. When Anakin Skywalker's helmet came off, the green blade was already gone, thrown away by the son who built it to show that he did not need his father's sword, and surrendered to show that he would not become his father's darkness. The lightsaber did its work not by striking the final blow, but by proving that the final blow was never needed. But that lightsaber would return, and when it did, it carried something new, the weight of a Jedi who saved his father, but couldn't save his students. The next video reveals what Palpatine's choice to keep Yoda alive exposes about Sith power. And if you've ever wondered why the Emperor hated Yoda more than any other Jedi, that answer strikes at the very core of what the dark side fears most. Be sure to watch these next.